what I really wanted to talk about was this truck, and specifically the good, the bad, and the ugly, as far as my impression of the truck so far. It's got almost 11,000 miles on it by now, and first impression is overwhelmingly positive. It's an absolutely gorgeous truck, beautiful truck to drive, very smooth, no problems with it, no issues whatsoever. It's been absolutely flawless so far, knock on wood. So I think probably one of the best things about it is the fact that it's got brand new tires, so it rolls really nicely. But I also happen to love the HVAC system, the electronic, I don't know, I always like to call it an EPU system, but you know, most people know it as OptiIdle, and I think Freightliner has come a very long way with their whole OptiIdle system, and I think it functions and performs absolutely beautifully. So much so that I would not even think of getting a truck with an conventional APU again ever. It is so much farther superior, in my opinion, to living with the truck with an APU, because APUs constantly need maintenance and they constantly crap out. At least that's been my experience with them. And they're loud, and they're I don't know, they're just a pain in the ass as far as I'm concerned. So I love the OptiIdle system in it. And like I said, overall, like mechanically, engine, transmission, suspension, all of that stuff, all the meat and potatoes, the truly important stuff, absolutely beautiful. I mean, there's a reason why it's the number one fleet truck in the country by a very long margin, and there's a reason for that. So that said, that I do love the truck. I will get into I guess you could call it a small laundry list of issues that are, how would I say, they're annoyances. Annoyances that are there by design, unfortunately. And what I mean by that is that, the engineers that design these trucks, I have a very strong feeling that not a single one of them has ever actually had to drive a truck. Drive a truck in traffic, in real everyday, day in, day out driving situations, whether that be on the highway, open road, whether that be in this kind of a shitstorm of traffic, whether it be in, towns, in, narrow streets, whatever. The whole myriad of places that a driver has to operate this vehicle. I really doubt very highly that any of them have ever driven a truck. And if they have, I have a feeling that anybody that would be critical or a detractor of a certain technology or a certain idea is probably falling into that whole corporate reality that I know very well from past experience. The most unfortunate part of big corporations is that they are a very large political reality. They're a political world. And when you work in them, especially when you get into mid and higher levels in corporations, your political standing is an extremely important thing. I would argue even more so than your actual performance. It's the who you know club at a certain point in your career. And what that means is that if the management or leadership of that big corporation is kind of sold on an idea or sold on a concept of some sort that they really want to pursue, and you're the person that knows that this is a really bad idea or this idea does not work, you run a huge risk by being vocal about it. It's one thing, you can like voice your opinion to a certain degree, very politically, very carefully, so that you don't stub anybody's toes that came up with that idea, who might be more powerful or more influential than you are. So you get into that whole bullshit. And the reason I'm bringing that up is that I think what has happened with the current level of technology in a Freightliner is very much a product of that type of an environment. And that said, I suppose I'll get into what I'm talking about, and that is the systems that they've installed in the truck to make it quote-unquote smarter and quote-unquote more efficient. So, and that's another disconnect that also becomes involved, because the people that actually, again, operate and drive the trucks and have to actually work with the equipment, they are not the ones in the decision-making roles. So these big companies like Freightliner, like Peterbilt, like Kenworth, like Volvo, like all of them, they design trucks with the thought of the driver being a very, very distant, item number 312. Or you get what I mean. It's a very low priority for them. What they really design these trucks for is to wow the corporate bodies of these big companies that are going to be their customers. So the Schneiders, the Swifts, all of these massive trucking companies, they are the bread and butter of these truck producers, right? They're the ones that buy these trucks, 35,000 tractors at a time. So they are the ones that have to be impressed by what is being produced. And they have to be sold on, okay, gosh, we want to get Freightliners because they can save an additional, 1/10 of 1 mile per gallon in fuel. And I understand that logic, because, when you do the math and broadcast that out over an entire fleet of trucks operating in your fleet, that becomes a very significant sum of money. So, at the end of the day, it really truly is all about dollars and cents, not about, what drivers want or may need or anything like that. But, so all of that preface is the reasons are the reasons behind why the truck is the way it is right now. But I'm going to go into the driver's side of the equation. And the driver's side of the equation is that all of this fancy stuff that is used to wow and impress the executive bodies of these trucking companies and convince them that they need to buy these trucks are the very same things that drive drivers absolutely insane. And I would argue in many ways are much, much more detrimental than they are helpful. So there's a list of things that I'm going to cover, and I'm probably going to have to stop and start and stop and start and stop and start the video, because I'm going to forget to bring up certain things. So it might be a little bit choppy where I'm, talking about one thing and then, I'll be on a completely different road or part of my day talking about another. So be it. That's fine. The main point for me is that I want to cover all the points. So.
Meanwhile, back in the lowlands.
Come on and sing it with me. Car wash. Sing it with the feeling now. Car wash, yeah.
Later that same evening.
Now I have the digital dashboard, and the digital dashboard, again, I think it's just a piece of marketing hype. I mean, is it cool? I don't know. I mean, it's a digital screen that shows the same shit that you would see with conventional gauges. You know, maybe I'm just old school, but I personally like conventional gauges. I don't need all this digital bullshit. Just show me a real gauge. I'm more than happy with that. But, I mean, it's not bad, right? So, I mean, it's giving me all the information that I need, and that's fine. At the end of the day, that's all I care about. As long as I can get the information I need and get it concisely, then fine, I'm good. From a design standpoint, though, Digital Dash is two different screens. One of them is in the actual center, you know, the regular dashboard area, and the rest is in a secondary screen that's over on the center console. And that secondary screen takes up a whole hell of a lot of space where company tablets used to be mounted. And for what that display is used for and for what it can potentially show, it's basically useless. I think it's more of a waste of space than it is anything helpful. The only thing that I do think it might be useful for is to show gauges. But unfortunately, whoever designed the gauges appearance at Freightliner, again, probably not a truck driver, probably some engineer or some, you know, college kid, whatever. They made very basic looking little bar graphs. So engine temperature or engine oil temperature or coolant temperature, whatever. They're like horizontal line graphs that, you know, they light up to show the reading. That's not a vehicle gauge, you know. It's certainly not a truck gauge, in my opinion. I mean, if you're going to do something like that and you've got the ability to do whatever you want to do because it's a digital screen, why the hell wouldn't you put some nice looking round gauges that actually look like truck gauges? I mean, truck drivers are the ones that are wanting to read the information. Truck drivers like to see round gauges. That immediately clicks in our brain. One little glance, we see where a needle is on a round gauge. We know exactly where we're at. But bar graphs, really? Freightliner? Come on. I mean, it's just, it's stupid. But again, minor little thing. It cracks me up because when I look at it, it has, you know, 20-something-year-old college kid written all over it, who's never driven a truck before. So maybe in future updates, Freightliner, put some damn round gauges in there. Make it look like, you know, a real truck and not some, you know, college kids video game. That would be nice. The other little thing that is rather weird is that with the digital dashboard comes a different type of steering wheel, because you need to have these little thumb pads to be able to control the digital dashboard, right? They're little like mouses, basically, micro-sized mouses that are built for you to use your thumbs to, you know, scroll and select things on the screen. All well and good. However, one of the things that I've already noticed is that, you know, during the course of maneuvering or backing or what have you, you tend to rub up against them fairly often. And when you do accidentally rub against them, they change all sorts of stuff on your digital dash without you wanting it to. So it would be nice, Freightliner, if you had some sort of a button where you could lock the shit in so that it disables those things in case you errantly like swipe against them, that it doesn't change your entire setup on your dashboard. just from an errant swipe of the thumb. That would be a nice idea. But what I find really weird is that every truck I've had since I started driving has had two different functions on the steering wheel, two different buttons, among others, obviously. But these two buttons are the headlight interrupt switch and the trailer light interrupt switch. And for those not familiar, what those things do is, if you've ever driven along on the highway, especially at night, and you'll see a truck passing a truck, and you'll see the truck being passed all of a sudden turn his headlights on and off to signal to the driver passing him that, hey, you're far enough, you're clear, come on over. It's also a way to say thank you. It's a nice gesture kind of a thing, right? Well, then there's a trailer light interrupt, which flashes the trailer lights, which includes the rear tail lights. Again, it's a thank you, right? It's a, hey, thanks, or, have a good day, or be safe, whatever. It's a nice gesture. It's a hand wave, whatever. Well, there have always been a button for each of those on the steering wheel. Well, on this steering wheel, the only button they have is the trailer light interrupt. There's no light for the headlight interrupt, which I find really weird. So I don't understand why that is. If you ask me, you could get rid of the hands-free phone buttons, because I don't think I know a single driver that uses the hands-free Bluetooth of the truck, because they suck. Everybody has a headset of some kind, or ear pods or something. So even though they put them in, nobody uses it, so they're useless. But I thought that was really interesting, that there's no headlight interrupt, unless there's some sort of a trick, a series of buttons or something that you have to do, hold one while pushing the other. I have no idea, but not having a headlight interrupt is kind of weird to me. So if anybody knows if there is a trick, let me know in the comments. That would be nice. But anyway, that's kind of it.